Number 8. Sunken Russian Submarine. Life for members of the Russian Navy took a treacherous turn in the year 2000 after they were involved in a shocking accident that caused the Kursk-class submarine to sink to the bottom of the Barents Sea. There were more than 100 crew members on board when the sub suffered either an explosion or a collision. The distressed crew members quickly lost all radio communications, and they spent hours tapping out messages in Morse code in a desperate attempt to get help. Things looked extremely grim for the crew, who were trapped on the seabed with no way of escaping. Rescuers scrambled to send down supplies of oxygen and water for the terrified crew, but it took an agonizing number of hours before the rescue team could get to the bottom of the sea to inspect the hull of the sub and figure out what caused the accident. Even as they were working on rescuing the crew, Russian officials remained tight-lipped about what actually happened, leaving distressed loved ones of the sailors to wonder if their husbands, sons, and brothers had been injured during the accident or if they'd been killed in the accident. No one knew exactly where the accident occurred or even how long it would take for the crew to be rescued. Making matters even worse, water completely filled the torpedo holds of the submarine, which would have immediately put the lives of the crew in danger, possibly even killing them within minutes. A commander in the Russian army did leak a bit of information though, that there were signs of the hull of the sub getting into a collision. When looking at the submarine and its 13,900-ton, 500-foot hull, you could only imagine the force of the accident that would have caused such damage. But when the rescue team finally got a look, they realized the incident was caused by an explosion, which is one of the worst-case scenarios for the crew. The only good news is that even though the submarine could carry a maximum of 24 nuclear missiles, there weren't any on board, and the nuclear reactors on board had also been switched off. Even as the Russian commander remained tight-lipped, he didn't have very good news for the rescue mission, saying that the probability of a successful mission was not very high. As time wore on, it was clear that the rescue mission was going to be more of a recovery. Distraught family members gathered together, spending agonizing days waiting for news about their loved ones. Sadly, over the course of 4 days, crews were unsuccessful and everyone on board died. The most shocking thing is, this wasn't the first time Russian submarines have gotten into similar trouble. From 1960 to 1989, subs have either gone down after fires on board, suffered near meltdowns of their nuclear arsenal, or suffered explosions that killed crew members. The accident was a severe blow to the Russian military, but even worse, it devastated the families of the men who never came home. Number 7. Antarctica's Buried Mountains. Things in Antarctica might be bigger than they seem if a new study is to be believed. Researchers were in for a shock when they uncovered evidence that a mysterious range of mountains hiding under a massive ice sheet was a lot bigger than they thought. The Gamburtsev subglacial mountains in East Antarctica are covered in over 15,000 feet of ice, making them a bit of a mystery to scientists. It has taken over 100 years of exploration in the region, but researchers think the 10,000-foot-high mountain range stretches far below what can be seen with the naked eye. Working in frigid temperatures and risking their lives and their bodies to frostbite and injury, the group of scientific explorers collected detailed images of the mountain range deep below the ice sheet using ice-penetrating radars, lasers, and magnetic and gravity meters. And what they found has stirred up controversy. The rocks nearby suggest the mountains are ancient, but they have a steep, rugged shape usually found in younger mountains. It took further analysis of magnetic anomalies found in the rocks to prove that the Gamburtsevs match other rocks excavated around 1 billion years ago, around the time several continents and microcontinents collided, and long before animals and plants appeared on Earth. This means the mountains rose upward and were sculpted by rivers and glaciers around the time dinosaurs roamed the area. As the East Antarctic ice sheet formed, covering 1/10 of the Earth's crust, it entombed the mountain range beneath the ice, preserving it. Next up for scientists is the task of drilling through the ice sheet to collect rock samples from the mountains. Maybe then they'll get a better picture of how the magnificent mountain range grew into the behemoth it is today. Number 6. Copper Arrowhead. Sometimes it takes hard work to make a historic discovery. Other times it's just luck. For an archaeologist named Greg Hare, he was on a walk in the Yukon when he spotted something strange poking from the freshly fallen snow. When he took a closer look, he realized he was staring down at a unique weapon once used by ancient First Nations hunters. While traveling with a documentary film crew in 2016, Hare spotted a herd of caribou on what was once a site where the ancient hunters tracked the animals. Over the last 20 years, he and other archaeologists found other ancient weapons in the area, but Hare didn't expect to come across a strange antler poking from the ice. Where do you think the object came from? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you like this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. When Hare moved in to inspect the object, he realized the antler was attached to something. After carefully removing it, the team realized it had a pointed copper arrow at the other end. One of the oldest copper elements ever found in the Yukon, caribou have been known to take refuge on the alpine ice patches, giving ancient hunters the perfect place to stalk their prey. It's also the reason why so many artifacts have been found there after the snow and ice melts. Other artifacts found nearby include hunting tools made from wood and bone. The discovery of the copper arrowhead is a first for the area, and one that experts think first showed up in the Yukon around 1,000 years ago. For nearly 8,000 years, hunters used throwing darts, but they made a sudden shift into using the bow and arrow to hunt. The accidental discovery of this arrowhead is an exciting one, offering a snapshot into one of the earliest examples of bow and arrows ever recovered in the Yukon. Number 5. Frozen foxes. Wondering just how cold Germany's Danube River is? Just take one look at this frozen fox and you'll get the idea. After the red fox fell into the fast-flowing river, it struggled to pull itself free, but the current was too strong and the water was too cold for the poor animal to save itself. Instead, the animal drowned, and as the water froze over its body, it became completely trapped in ice. A local hunter spotted the unfortunate fox. Worried that someone might suffer the same fate, he cut free the frozen animal and put it on display in front of his family hotel, hoping others would be so horrified by the sight that they'd steer clear of the river. But if you thought this was a one-time thing, think again. In 2014, a fox fell into a similar situation when it slipped into a river in Scandinavia, not just once, but once each winter over a 5-year period. What would cause these foxes to continually hurl themselves into the frigid waters? Were they so desperate for food that they would put themselves at risk? Ask the fish swimming off the coast of a Norwegian island who suffered the same fate. That's right. Onlookers were stunned one winter when they spotted an entire shoal of fish frozen together underwater. Wondering how an animal can freeze so easily? It has to do with their thin skin. Some species have no tolerance to ice, so whenever they're surrounded by frigid water, the cold penetrates the fluid in their bodies and within minutes, ice fills their abdomens, encasing all their internal organs and giving them no way to escape a watery death. It's definitely not a poetic death, that's for sure. Number 4. Woolly mammoth's brain. One good thing about permafrost, it preserves some remarkable discoveries. If it wasn't for the frozen Siberian tundra, researchers might never have had the chance to study a well-preserved woolly mammoth. Even better, when they started examining the mammoth's remains, they realized the 39,000-year-old carcass still had its brain mostly intact. The first discovery of its kind by scientists. The mammoth was between 6 and 9 years old when it died near the Laptev Sea in Russia, which meant experts had to be very careful transporting the carcass 93 miles from the site for examination. That's when researchers could really put the specimen under the microscope. Using CT scans and MRI imaging, the scientists were stunned by what they saw. Located at the back of the brain, the animal's cerebellum, which regulated the mammoth's movements. They also spotted the cerebrum, which is the largest part of the brain and helps regulate the animal's temperature. Being able to study the brain up close this way made for some fascinating discoveries. Experts found that the brain structure was very similar to the brains in modern-day elephants, which makes sense since the two are related. This insight has experts wondering if mammoths also shared behavior patterns with elephants, including chasing and wrestling another for play and communicating with one another. Further study of the mammoth brain might unlock these secrets long buried under Russian permafrost. Number 3. Yellowstone Spear. Researchers working in Yellowstone National Park have their hands full with so many ancient artifacts emerging from melting glaciers in recent years. As the climate changes, hidden secrets of the past are revealed, but archaeologists need to get a move on if they want to preserve these treasures and get a glimpse of how the nation's first people lived. Stunning tools, spears, and even baskets from ancient Native Americans are all items that have resurfaced in the past few years. If you thought these fascinating discoveries only came from deep under permafrost, think again. Melting ice near the surface has also recently exposed ancient trees over 5,000 years old, extinct animals, and ancient wooden weapons. Most of the time, archaeologists find stone objects when unearthing artifacts, but ice patches have a unique ability to cryogenically preserve organic material like leather, wood, textile sand, and even animal fur, giving researchers a vastly expanded idea of how ancient people in the Rocky Mountains lived. Other locations have also revealed rare insects, campsites, and fire rings from native tribes who once called the land their home. As archaeologists work at a fever pitch, they're doing everything they can to save these priceless treasures before they melt away. Number 2. Woolly Rhino. Another historical find made under melting permafrost has revealed a remarkable discovery in eastern Siberia. One day, a local resident was out for a stroll when he stumbled across something bizarre poking out of the snow. When he took a closer look, he realized he was staring down at a strange carcass of an animal he didn't recognize, one with long dark fur and long horns. As soon as experts heard about the discovery, they headed to the location. There, they found one of the best preserved woolly rhino specimens ever recovered in Siberia. It lived in the late Pleistocene era between 20,000 and 50,000 years ago. Remarkably, it had most of its internal organs intact, and there were telltale signs of wear and tear on its horns, which meant it was using them for foraging and hunting. Most of its soft tissue was still visible, including part of the intestines and its genitals. Experts think the rhino was between 3 and 4 years old when it died, probably from drowning. Next to the rhino's body, the animal's small nasal horn was found, which thrilled scientists who know the horns usually decompose first. If you thought the animal was a rarity, you're partly right. They are unique, but there have also been a number of equally fascinating discoveries made in the area. Another young woolly rhino was discovered in 2014 that was about 34,000 years old when it died. Mammoths and rare cave lion cubs have also been found in parts of Siberia. As global warming melts the permafrost in Russia's extreme regions, experts believe even more historic discoveries will be made. Number 1. Austrian soldiers. One of the more gruesome discoveries made by researchers came in a small Italian town where the melting glaciers revealed the lasting remnants of war. 100 years after the start of World War I, the bodies of 2 Austrian soldiers were found on what's known as the Presena Glacier in the Italian Alps. But the discovery of the bodies wasn't the most shocking thing. The blonde-haired, blue-eyed soldiers found in the small ski resort town of Baio were naturally mummified, which also preserved the bullet holes in their heads. Experts think they fought in the White War in 1915, when Italy invaded Austria alongside the Allies. But the threat of death wasn't the only challenge soldiers faced. The bitterly cold temperatures and threats of daily avalanches also made life unbearable for the young men. But it's also what played a key part in keeping their bodies intact decades after they fought and died there. The glacial cold protected their clothes, preserving their hair and skin. In the last few decades, more than 80 soldiers who died in the White War have been discovered, but that doesn't make it any easier for those who find them. The fact that their bodies are so well preserved makes their lifelike appearance an even more chilling discovery. It also brings up the question of whether they should be reburied or if researchers should be allowed to study the bodies for scientific purposes. Locals felt the men should be left alone and succeeded in having a number of the bodies buried in the local cemetery. Hidden for nearly a century, the casualties of war are still felt in the Alps, but at least some of these men are now laid to rest. Thanks for watching. Which of these things found in the ice did you think was the most incredible? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like these. See you next time. Bye!